All right, everyone, we are here with a very special guest. The lovely Jason Tartick is joining us. We have his new book. It's really fun to do this every time if you watch on YouTube.
I know, we've just been really crushing our book promo.
Yeah, right here, right in front of us, the Restart Roadmap. Jason is great at giving advice about your career, financial path. I think that you've taken many different paths in your life, and so we're excited to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Chicks in the Office book club, right?
Yeah, I know. It feels like everybody's promoting their book these days. And I like that we're really touching all genres. We're doing memoirs. This is kind of like advice, how-to, novels.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we should write a book.
I think so.
But we'd have to go like the Craig route.
Right.
You guys would write a hell of a book.
Yeah. I think we could.
We could write a good book.
Fiction or nonfiction, though? All like behind the scenes of what you
I
don't
think we'd
hear.
probably do nonfiction
You know what
first,
I used to do?
I wanted to like write fiction when I was little.
Yeah, I did, weirdly enough, me too, which I don't read, so people would think that's crazy, but I used to write like short stories all the time. I was into movies and stuff. I wanted to like write scripts. But when I first started working at Barstool, I kept a journal every day of like weird things not weird things, but like crazy things that would happen, like people that came into the office, and I lost the journal. Yes.
Oh, that
I
would've been
lost
gold.
the journal.
Oh my God, I didn't even know you did
No,
that.
I did, because when I was it was before you even came in.
Yeah.
And I was an intern, and like all these like cool people would come into the office, and like some of them would talk to me, and like all these like weird interactions would happen. So I would start writing them down. And I lost the journal when we moved offices, and it's like one of my biggest regrets, because I would love to like look back at this journal.
You should have started to do that again.
Yeah,
I know, but now it's like like I guess I could pick it back up, but my you say this now, I'm like, my memory's stronger now. My memory was strong that back then.
Yeah, but now you can't remember what you wrote down.
No, I can't. And it was all at the I didn't know where I would where we would end up, right? Like I had no idea. So I didn't like think too much about like keeping it safe. But it upsets me all the time, and I think I'm like, I really started doing that, and like now somebody has a journal of things that happened here when I first started. Yeah, good stuff too. Like you know, athletes would come in and stuff. Like,
wow,
that's one of the tough things about writing a book, though, is you want to make it super entertaining, but at the same point, you have to think about like, are you pissing someone off? Are you like going against a contract? So even stuff like that, like, do you think you get exposed to all this?
I think my thought was like, one day I'm gonna, like years and years from now, like I'm gonna be able to like talk about this, like, you know, like when I'm like 50 years old. But it's so upsetting because, like, remember we like threw out all our stuff at the office when we changed office. I had textbooks there from when I was in college. I threw out the textbooks, and that was in the mix, and it's upsetting. So when you,
that is tough.
Yeah, it is. When you decided that you were gonna like write a book, and obviously your podcast is very focused on the same kind of thing. Did you know that this was the road that you wanted to take with the book instead of like a personal life? Because it's a little bit of both, but it's more you're giving advice and.
For sure. I definitely wanted to.
Yeah.
Just more of a roadmap.
It's right there in front of me.
I knew I did not want to do like a Bachelor tell-all book. I was like, that's not what I want to do. I want to stay in my lane, but I want to make it somewhat entertaining.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's more entertaining than hearing about a guy who goes on The Bachelor, goes back to work, and then gets kicked out the door because of a confession Kaitlyn made on the podcast. I mean, it was a wild day when I get the call from my boss, and he's like, so have you Googled yourself today, right?
Can you tell the full story of that for people who don't know?
Full story.
I don't think I remember.
Yeah, so I'll give you the full story. We're doing a live show. As you guys know, with live shows, you got to get shock value from the audience. It's different than podcasting because you also want to entertain.
Yeah.
So Kaitlyn does the confessions. You guys know how the confessions work. If anybody doesn't, if someone comes on her podcast Off the Vine, you have to give a confession so the people that they're listening to and look up to, they can relate to the fact we are all human. We all have embarrassing moments. We could all laugh together. And so her confession that night was that the first time we had hooked up, we dry humped. She had said that
I remember
she orgasmed from dry humping.
Yes.
And that apparently after it, she had like a booger in her nose, and I picked it. And she's like, that's how I knew this was my dude. And so, we're all laughing. Like, I'm not thinking anything of it. Another funny thing about this story, I don't even know if I've told this, is I knew we were pretty hammered that night, and I knew we had said some kind of crazy things. So I got the podcast. I went through it. I edited the whole thing because I was like, I don't want issues with work.
Yeah.
I heard that. I was like, it's harmless. I left it in.
Yeah.
And that's what killed me. All that
You're like, boss, you don't like a little dry humping?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But it's also like, it also gets taken, you can listen and be like, oh, this is so harmless and fun. But then when the headlines, when it gets written about, like in Us Weekly, it's like Jason Tartick makes Kaitlyn orgasm from, it's like, so like they just take and then the bosses just see that headline and they're like, what
the hell? They're shaking up. And essentially it was like, either restart your career here, no more of that. No podcast, no nothing, or go outside the bank and restart your own thing. And so these were the words they were using, restart. And so that's when I created the company Restart. And it just happened that the world turned upside down. And I mean, there's a great resignation, and people about 48.7 million people voluntarily left their jobs in 2021. Mm-hmm. So people are like, their behaviors are now aligning with their career choices to like write their own path and do it their way.
I mean, like being home for COVID, I feel like changed so the business model for like everything, because so many of these companies that always require people to be around or be in the office, now everything's changing. People are choosing where they want to live. They're like, I'm going to keep my job, but I'm going to move across the country. And now like employers say, okay.
Sure.
Right. And people have more freedom, and they see that like you could do a lot of stuff from home, I feel like. And I think, even in my own family, people were like, I've been working, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this job when I'm seeing this person on the internet do something cool or like make their own business? So was it a relief for you in some way to leave that job and kind of do your own thing?
For sure. It was a relief, and it was expected. I was going to leave anyway, like 12 months from that. And I didn't expect to leave that early, but I knew I was going to. And
now, was it like that day? Like, how quickly was the turnaround of being like, all right, I'm out of here?
It was pretty quick. Yeah. It was pretty. And the thing is I had to do like a lot of covering up, right? Because the message was I was going to start my own thing. And additionally, I don't know how, like I didn't want my parents to know the whole situation either. So until they read the book, they just thought I was leaving to go do my own thing. They didn't know the whole circumstance. And I even had employees at work text me like, wait a second, I was at your going away party. You're kidding me. I didn't know any of this shit. So it was like,
wait, you had to leave?
Yeah. And then of course you get all like the Bachelor Nation, the trolls that are like, oh, another guy just going to like do nothing for his life. Like, what are you doing now? And so I just
another Bachelor guy writing a book.
Writing a book. Yeah. So anyway, but I think there's a lot of great stories in here. If anyone's having like any career confusion, it's a great book to turn to. And I told stories from like the Wall Street executive offices that I would be in and get to see some of the craziest things from behind the scenes of unscripted television, how people position, negotiate, brand. And I do think it's a page turner.
It is. And not only because it is good, but we are in this book.
Shocking.
That's right. Shocking. You guys made it.
Yeah, so if we didn't sell it to you enough already, we are literally mentioned in the book. I was taken aback. I was going through it, and I was like,
wait a second.
Hold on a second.
Is that me?
I was like, wait a second.
You guys are in there.
I'm like, wait, about them getting together? Like, I'm like, about Kaitlyn and Jason getting together? I was like, wow, we're mentioned in a different way.
About our career?
So at first, and Rhea was like, oh my God, are we actually getting credit for setting them up? And I was like, no.
You're like, not quite, but we're in there.
And, Erica's got her little
blurb
on the back, as well as a lot of, very cool people. And so we're very honored to be mentioned with a lot of very, very cool people in this this book. And so how much did you take from the podcast, you would say, your podcast, to help you with this book?
I would say a decent amount. So the one thing I talk about is like breaking the blueprint. And I talk about like anybody you look up to. If you rewire how they got to where they didn't do it the way the blueprint suggests. They failed. They always considered to pursue their passions. They made sure what they did, their skill sets aligned with. Like The Rock, people like The Rock, right? His story. Guy was broke, NFL player, had nothing going for him, and was still like, I'm meant to be in entertainment. I'm going to keep going. And so when when I thought about blueprint breakers, like I knew their full story. I think both of you guys are blueprint breakers, right?
Thank you very much.
You're not going
Thank
to
you.
Georgetown,
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it your way, the way you wanted to do it. You guys started with Barstool, and Barstool was nothing. And look at the brand you've built, regardless of what that guy said in Kaitlyn's prank. Chicks in the office have built a hell of a brand.
It actually worked out that I wasn't able to be a part of that.
I actually,
because-
that's what I said too. It worked so well.
Did you get to watch it back?
Yes,
or
I
no?
did, and she texted me immediately after. She was like, "It went over like so well," and she showed me what Kaitlyn was like texting them during the interview. I was like, "Oh my god!"
We were cracking up.
I don't know if I would have been like. I feel like I almost would have been fighting back.
Your composure, by the way.
I know. I almost like.
I saw some clips of you like smiling a little bit.
You were like
I was
smiling,
like,
and you always had one move. You'd be like,
I know, I was just
smiling,
like,
looking down.
But I tried to like kind of play it off as like, oh my god, I'm trying to like laugh at how absurd that this interview is. But backstory: Jason pranked Kaitlyn for April Fools. He set up a whole fake interview that was supposed to be like a women's empowerment panel, and it was Kaitlyn, myself, and Robin Shaw, and the comedian hired to interview. They set it up where it was like supposed to be a friend of Clayton, and Clayton was in on it, and like encouraged her to go on and do the show, and then this guy like is a total dick to us the whole time, talking down, like basically saying to me, he's like, "Wow, I really thought two of you would be here." Like,
He kept intentionally calling you Rhea.
kept
He's
calling
like,
me
Rhea,
Rhea.
thank you for being here.
It kept calling me Rhea. He kept basically asking
my
Kaitlyn
dad
questions,
called
calling
me
her,
and was
calling
like,
her
"Were
Hannah
you
Brown."
supposed to be in
On
this?"
this
Like
show,
he was
yeah.
like, "I keep seeing your name." I was like, "Yes, but it's just funny."
It was
And
unbelievable.
how long were you planning that?
We planned it the day of.
The day of.
And
Yeah.
you had to get back at her for last
Well,
year.
Kaitlyn. And so anybody that doesn't know, Kaitlyn got me so bad. The night before, her stories are always ridiculous. She sent me a nude, but it was intentionally to fuck with me on April Fools. So on April Fools, the next day, she had everybody, all like my mom, producers from the show, like the most ridiculous array of people texting me all different things. Like, what'd you just put on the internet? Like, Kaitlyn's gonna kill you. How could you do that to her? And all the same times, like 50 text messages come through.
God.
So I call Kaitlyn and I'm like, "Kaitlyn, what's going on?" And she's like, I don't know. And she goes, "I'm looking at, let me call you back." And I look at my stories and nothing's there. And then she calls me and she's like, "Jason, take that off are you kidding me?" So I'm freaking, like, what the fuck's going on? You gotta be kidding me. And so she got me
The
on.
video
She
of that
recorded
is
the whole
so
thing.
You
funny.
were freaked. I was like, I've never seen Jason like
I
that.
was freaking out. So literally it was the day out. It was, all this book promoting. It's a busy time. So April 1st, I call Robin, who's super creative. She came up with the idea. When did I DM you?
It was like 10 a.m.
that morning.
Like,
I messaged both you guys literally at like
Yeah.
11 a.m. Like, we got to do this. And it somehow turned out perfect.
Yeah.
I know it did.
It was luck.
It
was
did.
luck.
It was great, and it was funny because like right away, we had a text chain of all of us like planning, but then Kaitlyn texted me and Robin and was like, "Do we like this guy? Like, what's his deal?" Like, she immediately was like, "What the fuck?" And the best was the fact that like when he went to end, she just like left, and we had to get her to come back
She
into
totally
the Zoom.
took off. And you guys, the whole time, they're texting me, right? And they're saying, "Jason, you gotta pull the plug. Like, she's gonna freak out. She's gonna freak out." I'm like, "No, hold the line." I'm like yelling at Fran. I'm
We
like,
need her to freak
He's
out.
like, "Keep going, keep going."
"This is my chance. Don't fuck it up."
Push.
I mean, I don't know
so we
where
got
you
her
guys
back.
go from here now. Like,
I don't know. I'm
because
in
this
trouble.
is the
I'm gonna
thing.
get
Now,
into
like
Now she's
one
gonna
year,
get next.
She's
No,
gonna
You
but
get
have to
it.
be on the lookout.
but
I
like
know.
it could be both. Like now, Kaitlyn had 1 year, you have another year. Now, like who gets the next
Yeah,
year?
do you guys
I
do both?
don't know.
Is it? Are you
Or do
both
you-
gonna plan pranks at the same
Or
time?
do you surrender?
If we get each other next April 1st, knowing what we've done the last, like,
Yeah,
shame
yeah.
on you or I.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that
our
is
You guys
guards
are
up,
just-
right? Like, I will have full defense.
That
all
is very
April
true.
1st,
If you get like
2023.
any work invites or anything, you
For
have to
sure.
like look at it so
You
gotta
closely.
just, like, take off the
Google
whole day.
everyone on the
Okay.
invite.
I'm so defensive now, actually. So we're on a book tour, right? So it's 8 cities, 8 stops.
Yeah.
And I get a call from our operations manager yesterday, and she tried to get me on April 1st. This is bad. She tried to get me in her prank with shit. I'm like, this is terrible. Before she even got there, I'm like, stop. This she's like, damn it, one day I'll get you. So literally the tour started 2 days ago, and it was like April 2nd or something. She's like, Jason, I just tested positive for COVID. I'm sorry, I can't make the tour. I'm so heartbroken. I literally said to her, I'm like, listen, Julie, you can't bullshit.
Yeah.
You don't have COVID. I will see you in Buffalo. This is when your flight is. I'm really looking forward to this. And she texted my partner and was like, Jason's being such a dick. Like, what is his problem? Like, how could he like tell me this isn't real? I thought she was messing with me. It's my defense.
You thought she was gonna get you a few days later.
The poor girl has COVID. She can't. She's so distraught about it.
Oh my
God. That's so funny. Yeah. Shut it.
Unbelievable. One way or another.
So you're on this book tour. Now, what does it entail? And you're doing 8 cities in 8 days, so a lot of traveling.
8 cities in 8 days, yeah. And so we're going different spots. We're here in New York tonight. We're at 92Y.
Yeah, when everyone listens, this will have happened already. So
yeah, it already happened. We sold it out. It was great.
It was great.
But the format is we're taking, just like the book, we're taking chapters from the book with our guests and asking them questions about their life and how they approached it. Some of it gets really deep. Some of it gets pretty funny. And then there are some games that we're playing with the audience. They have to sell, and they're going to have to act in different ways. And so it's like entertaining while educational. It's interactive.
You have to take someone from the crowd and be like, all right, I'm your boss. Now ask me for more money.
I'll sell this pen.
Well, that's how it starts, but I'll give you an example of one. So we'll pick out 3 people from the crowd tonight in New York. They're going to have 3 rounds, and they're going to have to, the first round is going to be Matt James never came out of the limo. First impressions are huge, especially with work. You screw up a first impression, it takes 17 acts of remedy to make up for that bad first impression. So they're going to have to act knowing Matt James. What would Matt James say out of the limo? So all 3 of them will go. Claudia, girl with no job, loves to party. You got to act with no words. How the song's going to play? How exactly would Claudia dance? You got to act at your best. You got to sell it. And the third one is in the first chapter. I talk about Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
And I talk about the fact I was in such a bad position. I never told anyone this until I wrote it. I was in such a bad position with work stuff that I was having panic attacks. So then what I did was I got prescribed Xanax and beta blockers, and I was trying to camouflage it. And so I would literally put it in Altoid cases. And then the problem is when I had Altoid cases and I would like take it if I was like feeling a panic come on, someone would ask me for a mint.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, this isn't going to work.
I got a mint for you.
So this is kind of a special mint.
Yeah. And then I went to Listerine strips. So we'll do like a fight, something where you got to like act that out. Crowd will vote, and then we have a really cool prize we're giving away.
Awesome. That's fun.
Yeah,
That's a little improv.
Games, interactive, improv, because improv's selling. And selling's important.
And what other cities are you going to?
So we started in Nashville, and then Buffalo, New York, going to Boston tomorrow. After Boston, going to Detroit to Chicago to Cleveland to Minneapolis.
And this is all
8
back to
days.
back.
Straight
There's
shot.
No day in between. Like, why did you want to do it back to back?
So the good question, right? So behind the scenes, the publisher's like, once the book releases, the first week after the day it releases is really what matters.
The most important.
For like everything. For metrics, for if you're going to stay in retailers, for really, like if you're ever going to get an award or anything, that's when you got to do it. So if you're going to do it, that's
you
the
just
way
gotta
to go.
Now, can people
go in hard.
Buy the book at the shows?
Yep, they could buy it at the shows. You could buy it on Amazon. You could buy it at Barnes & Noble, Target, anywhere where you can get a book right now.
And so I think when this airs, probably are all the stops, can people still get tickets towards the end?
Yeah.
For like those last couple ones? Because I think that's probably going to be the one people. Cleveland, Minneapolis.
Yep, so Cleveland, you just go to the restartroadmap.com and all the ticket information's there.
Amazing. So once you guys wrap this up, what are the upcoming plans for afterward? A little break, a vacation?
Well, the first thing we're doing is we're going to Tulum.
Amazing.
So never been to Tulum. We got that.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
We have the wedding planner is locked in. The wedding planner is the same planner that Ashley and Jared use, because when we went to that wedding, we were just
that wedding looked stunning.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it looked
unbelievable.
unreal.
We know it's going to be in Nashville. That's all we know now. Let me ask you your opinion on this. I'm not saying anything I just want your opinion, right? What are your thoughts in general of like a New Year's Eve wedding? Is that bad,
I'm glad you just asked.
Just curious. I'm not saying that's a plan.
Because I thought that was what you were going to ask.
No, you didn't.
Why?
Why do you know my future?
For some reason, I really think only because I just had this conversation with my friends this past weekend.
Interesting. What's your take on it?
I actually am all in on a New Year's Eve wedding.
Interesting.
So
it's a polarizing call.
It is.
People hate it or love it.
I think I talked about this around New Year's Eve.
I
knew
hate
somebody
New Year's
that
Eve.
yes. So I think that's why it works out, because my initial thought was like, how selfish of people to make everyone do this on New Year's Eve. But then I was like, wait a second. Once I had I was like, my New Year's Eve wasn't that great. It was fine.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out your plans, and people got to pay. And it's like, if we just all know what we're doing on New Year's Eve, then it works out.
It is a big. I know it's a big.
It gives everyone
it's a big
plan.
travel
Gives everyone a
vacation
plan.
time,
Yeah,
right? People
that's
take
true.
trips
'Cause you're going
between
from
Christmas and New Year's. Like that's when our office closes, so like we take time off then. But there's enough time where you can take some time off or maybe go on a little trip, a little getaway, and then on New Year's Eve like you have these plans. I just think that I think it's fun. I think everybody wants a reason to like get up, get dressed, like black tie and like party on New Year's Eve.
Right.
But they don't want like, especially in New York, it's so expensive. It's so overplayed. Like it's just not, the events are just not as fun as it seems.
I'm not sure I will ever do New Year's Eve in New York City again.
Yeah, so I just think exactly.
What was the bad experience?
Exactly.
I just was so oversold.
It's so oversold.
It's just like, this is going to be and it's like,
And it
not.
just
It's
sucks.
just
So like
not
to
a
know
good
that you have
Yeah,
a
it's
wedding
just-
and you're just like happy and everyone's it's just love everywhere and then like midnight and everyone parties.
Yeah,
and I feel
so
like
do
it's
you have
great.
to start the wedding a little bit later so that like you make sure? I mean, weddings usually always go past midnight, I think, but like you got to start it a little bit later, or
Well, then you could have your after party.
Yeah,
This
the
was just
after
a recent
party.
debate we had, and I'm curious. Now I'm asking people, what are your thoughts on it? So
Now, what is
we'll
your
see.
thought?
I don't know. At first, I'm like New Year's Eve wedding. Like I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
like,
it's first. I wanted to look up what day of the week it is this
I'm like,
year.
is
It is a
tacky?
Saturday night.
I'm like, I don't know. Is that tack? But it's a Saturday night.
It's a Saturday night at the end of 2022.
Interesting.
Just saying. Interesting. I'm sure you probably didn't know that.
I swear. To God, I actually swear to God. I had no idea.
Really?
No idea.
December
We're just, like,
31st is a Saturday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's
All
the
right,
weather
well,
like
good.
in Nashville at that time?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be rainy. It could be, I mean, it is
Yeah.
the craziest weather in Nashville, so I don't even know.
I
But-
liked in the book when you talked about like deciding where to live and how
Yes.
that impacts your finances and so
Yeah.
much, because I think Rhea and I we've had discussions about
I
New
wanna
York.
move to Florida
and
so
she
bad.
like
Do
she's
you?
like, I
She
want to get
won't.
the hell out of here. I'm like, I don't want to leave New York. And then I
Interesting.
see that and I'm like, oh my god, it would be so much more money.
I
like
just wanna move to
I just did my
Florida so
taxes.
bad.
God,
Yeah.
New York taxes.
New York
They're
taxes
so bad.
are
It's
rough.
like
They're
it's like
brutal.
getting a raise.
It's
if
a
you move
huge
to
raise.
Florida, like
Yeah, well, Tennessee too.
Or,
no
yeah,
state
like,
income
whatever,
tax.
but,
a big
yeah.
part of this book is like rethinking where you live and why, and like what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's like 3 things you got to grade, like your personal thing. Some people like personal happiness. Like I have friends in Buffalo, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
They know that their career and their financial situation is not accelerating because of where they live, given what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they're like, I don't care. That personal satisfaction is all I want out of life.
Yeah.
But you got to grade like your personal satisfaction, the financial impact where you live, and the professional impact, and then make sense of it.
I'm
Good-
like your brother. Like
Yeah.
being
Oh.
like, I'm not leaving New
when
York
I
for
told him that-
Tennessee.
he's like, I would never, then I would live in, he said, then I'd live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
My
So
thing
people
with
are
Florida
rethinking
is just like
everything.
I have family there,
Yeah.
and so like I'm from Long Island, and
Yeah.
we have my house on Long Island still, but my parents go to Florida from February till June every year, and they are like thinking about just like living there permanently, keeping our house here for like my siblings or whatever. But I also have cousins there and like a bunch of family. My grandpa's there. I'm like, I just, it doesn't, like, I'm so happy when I go there.
Yeah.
I would get a huge raise if I went there, but I
This
can't.
sounds
I
like
can't
Kaitlyn
leave her
and I
yet.
debating where we would live.
Yeah.
Like, where do we go? So, do
know.
you have a happy medium, or would you never leave New York?
She turned to me and said she was never leaving
I
New
don't
York
know
last
if I'm
week.
gonna leave.
I
New
was
York.
like,
Anywhere in
what?
Texas?
No, I don't think I
That's
would
a
ever
cheap-
like. I don't think I'll be living anywhere outside the tri-state area.
Okay.
Like I think like when I leave Manhattan,
Yeah.
it could be like Long Island or New Jersey.
Okay, so you're saying
Yeah.
Like, I don't-
No, I will go, because if she's stuck here, then it's like, well,
Yeah.
why can't you be stuck in Florida? You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like,
you're-
now I got to be able to move where I want to live.
What you could do is you do 6 months and 1 day in Florida, and then you do 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the tax.
Well,
benefit.
thankfully
That's
now
the-
people
that's
can
the
do
Dave Portnoy plan.
podcasts over Zoom.
And
But
then
that won't be
actually
for a
the-
while. I got a couple years before I
Yeah.
leave.
That's
There
the
you go.
Laura and John Mariano plan. My parents are now Florida residents
Oh,
as well,
really?
but they're there like
live up
winter,
there, yeah.
winter months.
I think so. That's one thing too about this book. I think people are rethinking like every age. Like I
Yeah.
think workers are thinking about. I think retirees. One thing we didn't even talk about with the pandemic is students.
Yeah.
Students are like, wait a second, why am I spending this much money sitting at home? I can't even go to the bar and like
Yeah.
patron night or like hang out in my fraternity. It's just interesting. In the last 2 years, I feel like we have seen change happen at a speed that would have taken like 8 years.
Yeah.
And everyone's rethinking it. And if you're not rethinking it, I think you're being left behind. And that's a lot of
It's just like, it's so fucking expensive to live here. Like in the city, and not enough room at all. Like the living situation
I think
is just
selfishly,
tight.
like all my friends are still here.
Yeah.
I haven't quite gotten to the age yet where like everyone's getting married and moving away yet.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it'll happen eventually.
For sure.
But like as of right now, like all my friends, all my boyfriend's friends, all in New York. Like there is
Everyone's
nobody.
there.
Like if I moved to Florida, I got my parents.
Right, yeah.
And I don't have anybody
my
else.
best friend lives in
Your
Florida.
personal score will be a 0.
Yes, like
Maybe a one.
I
Mom
literally
and dad
I
are
like lose any aspect
Yeah.
of a social life that I have, and that's important to me.
Right.
So.
My best friend, also named Francesca,
Yes.
lives in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
you know what I
got it.
mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
So that has a huge
she's
impact
like
on
my
it, too.
distant cousin. I call her my cousin, but you know.
Here's
Yeah.
what you guys need. You need to keep blowing this tour up. Then you'll get the tour bus. You'll be going everywhere,
Yeah, yeah.
anywhere. It's not going to matter. You don't have to claim residency anyway, and you can still be here. That is the angle right
We're
there.
nomads.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
I do love it here, though. I don't want to make
Yeah.
it seem
Yeah,
like
no,
I
I know.
hate New
Sure.
York. Like I have so much fun here, but I'm like, like the weather is just so nice.
that's one of the things I talk about too in the book is like living in Seattle. It was so expensive.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone there. And being a banker in Seattle, it's not, the city doesn't do anything back, right? It doesn't give any value back for that profession. So I was just like, what am I doing here, right? Like my score on all 3 of those were like none, and that's when I made the decision to go to Nashville.
Amazing. Well, all right. So Tulum wedding planning, you guys are locked in, and before, like, do you have a date like that? You're like, we're gonna be married before this rolls around.
That's a question I haven't been asked yet, and that's good. I gotta think by this time next year
You'll have done
gotta
the
be married.
deed?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we just recently talked about like kids and
Yeah.
timing and like
We're gonna be
crazy.
Auntie Fran, Auntie Rhea.
Yeah, like you guys like weirdly. I know we said it a million times, but the Kaitlyn thing, the ramen thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
good
we're
job
in your
with the
book,
prank.
Jason.
You're
We're in
my
your book.
You're in my damn book.
Yeah.
You knew that I was going to ask you about New Year's Eve. Like you're predicting my wedding
know.
date.
I know.
Fran, you're sicko. What's
I know.
going
Yeah,
on?
you are kind of
How
sick.
do you know all
I
this?
know.
Tell me what's next. Give me a prediction.
I
when
know.
are we having a kid? What do you got?
I think soon.
Really?
Yeah.
You think sooner than
I
a
think
year?
it's
gonna be so-
Put it
No, I
out-
don't think sooner
put
than.
it
I
out
don't know
there.
if sooner than a year.
When do you think? Like,
I think
wanna hear
within
it.
2 years.
When do you think Caitlyn would find out
Within
she's
2
pregnant?
years.
No, make like a
Oh,
point.
I'm gonna
Because if
guess-
you're right, it's gonna.
I'm
freak
gonna
me the
guess
fuck
she's gonna find out in like August of 2023. That's good.
So that's not this summer. That's
Yeah,
the summer
next
out. I'm
summer.
seeing my life unfold.
Yeah,
in
you're
front of
like
my eyes.
that. Maybe that's possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
All right, there we go.
All right, that's my guess. Jason, thank you so much for coming and seeing us. And if you guys are listening and you're in Cleveland or Minneapolis, or hopefully I think you'll still be able to get tickets to those shows, check out the website and buy the book,
Yeah,
The
that'd be
Restart Roadmap. It's really great if you feel like you're in a little iffy spot with your career or life changes. This is a great book for you.
And Chicks in the Office are in it.
Exactly.
And
so
it's endorsed
There you
by
go.
Erica. What
Yeah.
more can you want?
What more could you
Barstool
want in a
galore.
book,
Might as well have
honestly.
just the logo on the front.
Yeah,
Of it.
Yeah.
right in the corner.
Yeah, there's a very tiny stool and stars.
Yeah,
If you look
stool
real
and stars.
closely on
There
the
you
back.
go.
All right,
Thank you,
Jason,
Jason.
thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.